Malolele, this is Pacific Waves from RNZ Pacific. I'm Susana Suisuki. Coming up, Marshallese community in the States reeling from Trump deportations. Also, Australia records its largest number of indigenous deaths in custody.
People who behave violently, yes, prison may be an appropriate response, but not a death sentence.
And the Pacific's fisheries body takes new conservation steps. Marshallese advocates in Arkansas say their community has been rocked by immigration enforcement. The state's northwest boasts the largest community of Marshall Islands descent in the country. Marshallese have visa-free travel benefits to the US due to an agreement it has with the US government. Kaya Selby has more.
The northwest Arkansas area is home to more than 15,000 Marshallese Americans, around 50% of the total US population of Marshallese. In fact, there are nearly as many Marshallese in the United States as there are in the Marshall Islands themselves. But a ramp-up in deportations is beginning to threaten all of that.
It's yanking men out of families who happen to be possibly the sole breadwinner for the family, and things just tumble from there.
That's Marshallese journalist Giff Johnson. He says that the Trump administration's aggressive action on deportations has resulted in more than 40 Arkansas Marshallese being deported so far this year.
Marshall Islands was averaging about 30 deportations per year. So that's people from all over the U.S. and Hawaii being deported, right? So when you say there's 40 from one state this year already, it gives you an idea of it's a lot.
He says there has been one case of a Marshallese citizen being held in Guantanamo Bay, set to be sent somewhere in Africa before it was put right.
It shows you that they have no clue about anything about what they're doing. The Marshall Islands Embassy in Washington got very engaged on it and managed to get him out of Guantanamo, and he was deported to the Marshall Islands not too long ago.
According to the Deportation Data Project, there have been 65 arrests and 58 detentions of Marshallese in the United States since President Donald Trump took office.
Staff at the main hospital in Vanuatu's capital, Port Vila, have returned to work. More than 300 health workers and staff walked off the job on Wednesday, demanding that the government pay their promised risk allowances for working during the earthquake disaster in Port Vila nearly a year ago. Buzz FM's Kizi Kausakau says the Prime Minister Jotsam Napats stepped in.
This morning, the Prime Minister, Jotsam Napat, he met with officials from the Ministry of Health, the Public Service Commission, the Government Remuneration Tribunal, and the hospital staff, their representatives, to restore services and ensure that payments are fast-tracked.
Kizi says the Prime Minister then reprimanded the Public Service Commission for the medical staff walkout.
He stresses again this morning that these delays, they are affecting essential health services in Vanuatu, and they are unacceptable, and instructed the Public Service Commission, which is PSC, for them to act more proactively in the future. So all the staff, they have warned that they may resume the stand down if the payments are not received by 5:30 p.m. tomorrow, Friday afternoon, in each of their accounts. So for time being, everything goes back to normal. All the staff are working, but they are just waiting for the deadline, which is 5:30 p.m. tomorrow. If they don't receive any money to their account, then it will be another stand down or it will be another industrial action.
December 17th is the first year anniversary of the 2024 earthquake. At least 14 people died while 265 others were injured. Extensive damage occurred in Port Vila and surrounding areas. The earthquake also generated a 25-centimetre tsunami. Kizi Kausakau says the payments are long overdue.
They're supposed to be paid out, a couple of months of the earthquake, like 3 months or 4 months. It's acceptable, but waiting up until 1 year for Vanuatu, mainly the island of Efate, to mark the first anniversary of the earthquake And only happened that since then, they did not receive anything from the government.
Kizi Kausakau says medical staff have warned that if no payments are received by Friday afternoon, staff will walk off again. World Wildlife Fund New Zealand has welcomed new conservation measures adopted by the Pacific region at its big annual tuna summit. The Western and Central Pacific Fisheries Commission agreed on new procedures to sustainably manage stocks of all the important South Pacific albacore tuna fishery. WWF NZ is also happy that the regional body has moved to protect seabirds who are highly threatened by longline fishing vessels. Their chief executive, Kayla Kingdon-Bebb, spoke to Johnny Blades.
So the Western and Central Pacific Fisheries Commission, which is the rule-setting body for Pacific tuna fisheries, has taken a long overdue step to protect some of our world's most endangered seabirds, including our rarest seabird, the Antipodean albatross. And in its latest meeting, which happened, just a few days ago, the Commission agreed to strengthen the rules to protect seabirds in a major stretch of ocean north of Aotearoa. So this is one of the key feeding areas where our endangered bird species overlap with longline tuna vessels.
What sort of measures do the fleets have to take?
Vessels need to employ 3 different tools or mitigations, if you will, to reduce the risk. So those 3 things are what we call tory lines. So they're basically these long streamers that come off the back of the vessel called bird scaring lines. You use weighted lines to sink the hooks faster, and you also set those lines at night. So those are the 3 interventions. Or alternatively, vessels have the choice of using these really amazing contraptions called hook pods, which basically shield the hooks and prevent the birds from being caught by them.
Is it hard when these regional meetings happen, given how important fisheries are for some of the Pacific countries with revenue and whatnot, is it hard to get conservation progress like you're just describing?
It can be. But it's not an issue limited to the high seas. So in Aotearoa, WWF has been advocating for almost the last 3 decades to have these mitigations taken up by our own domestic fleets. And it was only October last year that the New Zealand government finally mandated that these 3 out of 3 mitigations needed to be taken up by our own domestic commercial fisheries. So it's been a difficult and uphill battle for a long time, but the statistics speak for themselves. Our seabird species in Aotearoa are incredibly threatened. Over 90% of them now are threatened with extinction. And we know that it's not just a domestic risk for them, it's an issue throughout the Pacific. So it's been great to see that even though it's taken a few years, countries that are active on high seas fisheries in the Pacific, like Japan, China, Chinese Taipei, have been willing to come to the table and land a compromise here that is seeing, some really tangible benefits for these very threatened species that are, increasingly on the brink.
Just in general, the Commission, do you think it is getting better at adopting conservation measures, which keep pace with the way a whole range of species are under threat and increasingly so?
Yes, this is certainly a really positive step forward. And alongside this decision on mitigating seabird bycatch, at its recent meeting, the Western and Central Pacific Fisheries Commission also took a fairly significant decision on the management of South Pacific albacore tuna, which would be another example. Those things are both really important to Pacific Island nations. The albacore is one of the main tuna species that sustains Pacific Island fisheries and economic activity. So it's great to see that progress is being made towards ensuring ongoing and improved sustainability of those stocks.
In Samoa, one election petition is still before the court following the August general election. 8 election petitions were filed following the 2025 election. Our correspondent in Samoa, Ngalumalemana Tipi Autangavaia, spoke with Moira Tule Patela, who began by asking him if the current election petition system is working.
There's no improvement of this system, of especially filing allegations of bribery and cheating after the general election or a by-election.
Does 8 seem like a small number, or have there been even bigger numbers? Is like, what was the biggest number of election petitions filed in the past?
Well, remember the Electoral Act was amended, and that stops anyone who can file, because before in the Electoral Act, anyone, even a voter, can file allegations of bribery and cheating. And then the law was amended, and it was only candidates who reached 50% of the winning votes can file a petition. Now it's coming now to this general election in August to just only 8. I remember the 2021 general election, there were 11 election petitions.
And I guess too that if there are fewer people, that might mean that there at least is a lot easier for the courts to deal with, because that seems to take up so much time in the court system following an election when everyone is trying to file an election petition.
Yes, and that's why the court prioritized all these cases after general election. And that's why the court files of other criminal cases and civil matters are on standby, while the court is giving priority to the election petitions.
And a lot of the past election petitions, and even the current one following this general election this year, are a lot of them corruption in terms of trying to sway voters to vote for certain MPs in certain constituencies?
Absolutely. That's the main alleged allegations of bribery, of giving money even directly from the candidate or the petitioner or the respondent, but people who are agents for the respondent and the petitioner.
And I know in the past that there had always been that confusion between cultural giving for elections. Has that now really been stamped out?
Well, there are some cases where cultural presentations was involved, and those cases I remember after the 2021 election stemmed from a roadshow where money was presented, and the court has ruled clearly on that. It's traditional presentation.
The recent election, 8 petitions were filed, 4 of them didn't get through, so the last 4 has been, obviously people have been convicted on 2 of those, and a third one has now led to a by-election, of course, and now there's this other one still active, the Whalealili one.
Yes. So far in the remaining 4 from the total of 8 petitions after this year's general election, 3 were found guilty of bribery and cheating, which includes the Safata MP.
Who was also a government minister.
Exactly.
Now that these people who were both found convicted of the Safata number 1, so now they won't be able to obviously take part in the by-election, but also they won't be able to contest election for another 10 years.
Exactly. So it was the Safata MP and also a former MP from the same constituency found guilty as well of bribery. One woman candidate from Whalealili 2 election petition, and the former MP for the Whasale number 2 election petition. He was also found guilty of bribery and cheating.
Can they appeal against these election? If they're found guilty, can they actually appeal this?
No. The simple answer to your question, Moira. All these election petitions are not qualified to an appeal. So the decision is final.
That's pretty huge. Has this always been the thing in Samoa, or is this a recent?
Yeah, it's always been the case. And I think the reason why, it's for the stability of the government after the general election.
That's Pacific Waves for today. For all episodes, head over to rnz.co.nz/Pacific. We're also on Spotify, Apple and iHeartRadio. From myself and the RNZ Pacific team, airera tō whāsoi fua.